Hey guys, podcast show tonight. Obviously, the game did not end up happening for us, unfortunately. Something that we all probably are very upset about, but I mean, we can't really control the weather, can we? I think that even if they had to check the weather months in advance, I mean, you can't tell if it's going to change or not. We had a preview show, and our representative, Justin Smythe from Ireland, he's living in Ireland. He was very optimistic about the weather. He actually said that the weather was quite good in Ireland over the last couple of days before that. So interesting that it's rained out, and unfortunately, it's our old game that's gone. But we still wanted to bring you a show. And I thought just let's make it general. Let's have a conversation with you guys in the comment section as well. And let me bring on my friends onto the stream and let's just have an open conversation. A lot of things happened. So welcome Aditya, welcome Dan, and Abai. You can
Hello.
how's it, man?
Yeah, pretty good. I had to get up at 6 a.m. today because I was going to watch the Wimbledon final. So I'm a little bit short in sleep, but still excited to talk about this.
Bro, you're talking about you being short of sleep. I watched the entire UFC card. The entire one. I'm talking about the prelims as well as the main events. So
that's like midnight US time. So that's like 4 or 5 in the morning your time.
Yeah. So the prelim started about 12 a.m. in the morning for us. So I watched all of the prelims and then I watched the main card, which started at 4 a.m. So I haven't slept since then, basically. So just to watch McGregor, of course. I've always been a big fan of his. Unfortunately, breaking his leg there and didn't go the way that I thought it would go, or I was hoping it would go. So unfortunate about that one. And then obviously straight into the Proteas game, basically. I think I slept about 2 or 3 hours, I think, after that. And then up again for the Proteas game. And thankfully, that was delayed for my part, not for the rest of the fans out there. But Wimbledon as well, excellent. Djokovic, I'm a massive Djokovic fan as well. So at least now it's...
Messi finally got his national trophy for Copa America. So it was a great sports weekend. The only thing that was missing was the rugby.
Yeah,
but that it's the Lions versus a provincial team is never going to be a good result. That's like kind of World 11 playing the Titans. Like it's even a team that doesn't really communicate well is still, there's so much talent that like even a couple of individual performances is just going to dominate.
Yeah, I was just talking about it earlier with some of my family, and I was just saying how lucky we are as people in this generation. We've seen 2 of the best footballers of all time, possibly. We've seen 3 of the greatest tennis players playing all in the same era. We've seen possibly the best ever women's tennis player ever. We've seen the fastest man alive in Usain Bolt. We've seen some of the greatest football teams, some of the greatest cricket teams, some of the greatest rugby teams. I mean, New Zealand had like an 80% win record or something like that, crazy thing like that.
I mean, you've seen the greatest batsman since Donald Bradman in Sachin
Tiger Woods.
And we're
Tiger Woods in our time
as well. And I think Virat Kohli is just going to set the record books on fire the way that he's going.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Phelps, one of the greatest swimmers of all time. I mean, sport has been crazy in our lifetime, actually, that we've actually witnessed all of this. So we must actually, LeBron James, like Tsep was saying over there as well. So there's so many greats. I mean, Michael Jordan, even, you can count him into the era that we've been alive in a way. Maybe not Abai, but the rest of us. But it's crazy. It's crazy that we've been able to see that in our time. But yeah, Aditya, how you been? How's things going your side of the world? I mean, I thought I saw Ravi Shastri in the Wimbledon crowd.
In the Wimbledon game, yeah.
Was he there?
Yeah.
It was him. I thought so. I was a bit confused.
Yeah, the Indian team is pretty much on holiday for the next, well, before 20 days after the World Test Championship final, and a bunch of them went to watch the Euro Cup. A couple of them went to watch Wimbledon. A couple of others are just in other parts of the UK on holiday. So yeah, I think they've had a good time.
I think everybody on holidays it's like me sitting as a United fan waiting for the French guys to come off their holiday now, so we can get that Varane Varane signing over the line. I'm hoping that we do that. But let's talk about the topic today. We've got an interesting topic. What do we expect out of the Ireland series? It came about because we were going to speak about Andile alone, but because Andile, we can't really speak about it because this game obviously didn't end up being a result. So, but good comeback from the guy. I would just wanted to speak about the Ireland series as well. What do we actually want to see out of this? Because we've obviously seen the team. The team is very close to what the fans picked and what some of us picked on the show as well. I think a lot of us would probably agree with the team that was selected. Maybe you can say Vian and Keshaf, but because of the conditions, maybe the spinners are the extra spin is actually a good option. But let's go around the room. Aditya, what you want to get out of the series? Then Abai and then Dan.
This is an important series for South Africa, even though they're playing among the low-profile teams in Ireland. But it is an important series because South Africa, first of all, they need to rack up a few wins, and they need to establish their brand of cricket, which they sort of decided on during the Pakistan series, but they weren't able to execute to the best of their abilities at the time. And so therefore, they have to reflect on their mistakes there and sort of correct them here in Ireland. Secondly, this is an opportunity for players in the West Indies who didn't get an opportunity to play to get some game time here. And it is a massive opportunity for South Africa to test its bench strength. I saw on Twitter the last couple of days where people have been scoffing at the idea of Quinton de Kock being rested or some of the other senior players being rested. And I found that a bit strange because if we just look at the first 6 months of this year, India's third 11 won the Test series against Australia. England has had to produce 2 alternative teams overnight in the series against Pakistan. So these times present no guarantees that your first team is always going to play. Not to mention that players could get injured or players could get fatigued mentally or physically, and they are not able to play high-profile games. Therefore, it's incredibly important for South Africa to ensure that their bench strength is equipped to play international cricket. In Mark Boucher's words, at the end of the Pakistan series, that the players coming out of the domestic setup were still rough around the edges. So it's important for South Africa to give these players game time, to fine-tune their games. And I think there's no better way to sort of get players ready through the cycle and prepare them for the 2023 World Cup.
Yeah, and I think that needs to take priority at the moment. The T20 World Cup needs to be the main focus. I think keeping guys like Quinton de Kock and them fresh so that they can keep momentum going into the World Cup is very, very important. I was hoping that KG maybe got a rest as well. I think if Andrich was available and was 100% recovered, I think there might be still concerns over him and his knee. So I think that if he was available, they would have probably given KG a rest then. Because I don't think they want to have so many inexperienced guys on the field at one time, because points are always important. We need to win the game. But Abai, from your point of view, what you want to get out of this Ireland series? What you're hoping to see from South Africa?
All right. So first of all, I'm going to wait on the T20 series right now. I'm just going to I'm going to talk about the ODIs. So I think the introduction of the ODI Super League, that's kind of changed the scenario a little bit, because every single game matters now, and it's a chance to score points. So even if you're up like 2-0 in the series and it's a 3-game series, you've got to go all in on the third game. With that being said, I think this washout has proven to be quite costly given the start for the South Africans in the ODI Super League. I mean, considering the fact that they lost to Pakistan at home, this would be a perfect opportunity to turn things around, and hopefully change the complexion of what's to come ahead. But regarding the playing 11, I think against Ireland, it's a good chance to test some of the French guys. I think it was nice to see Yanaman Milan get a game and get a chance to potentially open alongside Aiden Markram. But likely we're going to see that next game. I was hoping South Africa would bat first this game. I was obviously fast asleep at 2:45, but let's hope the top order can click. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree in the comments with Tsepo. We want to see opportunities to the ODI side. I think there were a couple of brave selections. With the fans picking the side, we kind of said there was a need for bravery, a need to rest certain guys and just kind of really push. It's a shame Yanaman Milan didn't get an opportunity, but we saw a fairly good bowling and fielding setup. I mean, Rabada bowled 8 overs, Ngidi bowled 8 overs, Keshav bowled 9 overs, Shamsi bowled 8 overs, and Andile bowled 7. So we saw a very good outing from them in the field. I would say I was very impressed by I didn't watch it as much as listen to it on Guerrilla Radio SA, but I was impressed by the sound of the fielding. It sounded like they really made an effort in the field, and you know, these days you can't relax in the field. You can't have a guy just stand there and drop the occasional catch like that. That's match winners. So I like the fact that Bouchez is focusing on that. I was impressed with Verena behind the wicket. You know, having an alternate wicketkeeper, if anything were to happen to Quinton, like Aditya said, you know, in these days you can't bank on the first team just being your first team and being available all the time. You know, you're going to have to be able to adjust on the fly, deal with injuries, deal with players, deal with burnout, especially now that it's the Super League. I'm not a fan. I agree with Harshit. The Super League for me is a little bit useless. I think it creates a lot of pressure to always have the best players in the team play the game. And while that's nice for the fans, at the end of the day, you know, there's already so much cricket. And there's the independent cricket. You're going to have guys basically choose between, do I play the series for my country or do I go to the IPL? And we saw that in the Pakistan series. You know, by the last test in the Pakistan series, all the IPL players were gone from the team. And I don't want players to be in that position where they have to say, who do I pick? You know, am I loyal to my country? Am I loyal to my team? Or am I loyal to who's paying my paycheck this month? Because that's just not ideal. That's just not what you want to see in pro cricket. And I think the ICC should really rethink the Super League and just kind of just say, you know what, play around with it a little bit more before making it the rule. I think, you know, in cricket, it's an old game. You know, it takes a while to get a rule to apply. Don't just change the rules overnight.
Yeah, crazy. But one thing that I'm always happy about is that at least the South African players get to see some fans, you know, in the stadium. South Africa currently, the president was speaking again tonight with another family meeting, and we currently in level 4 lockdown. Our third wave is actually the worst that it's been out of any of the other waves. It's crazy at the moment in South Africa again, with regards to COVID-19. Where we're watching other parts in the world having massive events, like look at that UFC event, for example, sold out 20,000 people in the stadium. We're seeing Wembley, of course, for the Euros, how that was completely packed. So we still have a long way to go until we get somewhere and we get there. Unfortunately, others hope that people, listen to the restrictions and continue being strict here in South Africa. I mean, we obviously are completely different. Third world countries, completely different mindset. We need to be a little bit more strict here, and obviously have to prolong that. I mean, our curfew is at 9 p.m. in the evening, so there's like, what do you do for the evening? Basically, your evening's over by the time you blink. So it's crazy. No restaurants. You can't sit down at restaurants or anything. So yeah, at least the Proteas are getting their frame of mind is right, man. Because I was worried about that. At least them being in countries where it's a little bit better. I don't know what's going to happen now with level 4, if they're going to be allowed to come back into the countries. Is going to be the question. I don't know what they're going to do with regards to that. It's obviously safer for them to come back than to leave from here to somewhere else. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But guys, yeah, I saw some interviews as well before the game on SuperSport with Mark Boucher and Pami Mbangwa and Quinton de Kock, and Shamsi also spoke to them. Basically the same type of stuff that we saw in the press conferences ultimately. Not a lot different things was said necessarily. But it's interesting to hear this. We once again hearing the smart cricket, talking about the smart cricket constantly from Mark Boucher. And I don't know how we're going to... I don't know if the smart cricket brand or this definition of smart cricket is just I wouldn't say an excuse, but you can almost use it as an excuse, because you play aggressive brand of cricket ultimately, like he says he wants to play. But then if it doesn't work out, then you weren't smart enough. But if it works out, then you were smart enough. So what does smart mean? Can anybody try to explain it to me, what they mean by smart exactly? Because I feel that, like I always say, when South African sports teams play their natural brand that suits their style and their, philosophy, automatically they do well. We see it to the rugby team over and over again. Every time we try to change it, doesn't work. And every time we stick to our models and we stick to what we know, we do well. We end up winning World Cups and we're doing extremely well. South Africa, I think we produce naturally attacking brand of, especially in the white ball arena. We produce cricketers that have that natural attacking brand of cricket. Because we play so much white ball cricket at a junior level. Obviously, we are producing more and more white ball cricketers as we speak. Some guys like that. So, Aditya, whoever wants to actually go, maybe Aditya, you can give me an insight into what does Boucher mean by this smart brand of cricket. Every single time we have to hear this word.
To be honest, I think he's the best person that we could possibly ask. In the last press conference that he did at the end of the T20 series between South Africa and West Indies, I think he talked about it like 15 times in one press conference. And I don't know. I don't know what he means, because I think smart has different definitions for the three disciplines in the game: batting, bowling, fielding. So I suppose when you're batting, you should know when to absorb pressure and when to attack. Same thing when you're bowling. You should know when to execute your variations, when to be consistent, and so on. And in the field, you want to be as sort of clean as possible. And to me, I think that's my interpretation of that comment. I don't know. I don't know whether that's the best terminology to use, because I don't know how players will feel if they've had a bad day. Does it mean that they haven't been smart today on the cricket field? So I don't know. I'm not a fan of the use of the word smart in cricket, but to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. I think smart cricket to me kind of feels like it's looking at the game after the game and kind of dissecting. which is useful sometimes. You can sit with the players and say, these are the lengths you bowled, these are the lines you bowled. You bowled a lot of full tosses versus we can always review the bowling and say kind of where there were improvements. But at the same time, we can't do it to death and say, well, on this ball, you decided to do a reverse sweep, and there was a 90% chance if you did a cover drive, then you would have scored 4 runs. I mean, that's just not cricket. I do think I agree with Tsepo again that what Mark meant was by smart was adapting, and I think that's kind of the point that Deecha made as well, to say when to put your foot on the petrol, when to put your foot on the brake, when do you these are more captain decisions and captain bowler decisions, but when do you say, bring on a spinner and really, put 3 slips in and a gully and make sure that your field's as aggressive as possible? And when do you not? When do you rather put guys out on the boundary and try and slow the run rate a little bit? I like the thinking behind it. I think that makes us a competitive side to not just simply play the game, but to think about the game. But again, I'd also caution that there is such a thing as overthinking, and when you overthink something, you think it to death.
That's exactly my point of view. Yeah, like, I mean, we try to, and I don't want it to get to the point where they overthink things. Yes, they need to play the natural games. I think if they do, then we'll come out on top, man. I think we'll naturally see how they do. We'll naturally see a type of game plan that will suit us, ultimately. I mean, a lot of the players in the past have been attacking minded from a South African point of view. Like, I mean, other than maybe a guy like Dean Algar, if you look at him, maybe he's a little bit more defensive minded, someone that a dogged type of player, grinding things out. We have guys like maybe Timba, that's maybe not as. I was watching his innings against Ireland when he scored the 100. It's only 100 that he has in ODI cricket. And the way he went about it was, yes, he got a lot of luck on the way. There was some balls that he got nicks, but that's part of it. He was dropped at one point as well. But the way he timed his innings, I mean, was excellent. The partnerships that he was building with each particular batsman that came to the crease, and he just took full control of the situation, which was excellent from that point of view. So, I mean, Abai, from your point of view, I mean, South Africa's current team, I mean, we need to start obviously finding some sort of groove over here, consistency from that point of view.
I was actually listening in before as I was preparing my points. So I think I've mentioned in a few earlier articles I've written, I've used the phrase prudently aggressive. So it's not necessarily very defensive cricket per se, but at the same time, it's not always go big or go home in all situations. So I think that middle ground needs to be found, and at the same time, I think. Players have to. It's better if players stick to their natural game. Like, for example, we saw Bavuma in the West Indies T20 series. On 2 occasions, on one occasion he tried to attempt a big shot, and then on the other occasion he tried to scoop over a short fine leg, and on both occasions it didn't really work out. I think if players stick to what they know best, that could be a potentially very good sign for what's to come for the Proteas.
Ties in with one of our podcast shows we've done before. You remember sticking to the basics. We've got Mpo here as well. He's joining the stream as well. Welcome, brother.
Hey.
Yeah, like sticking to the basics is also so important. Like we'll see. I'm going to use another cross reference again to another genre and another sport. Like today we saw another Duplessis represents South Africa pretty well in the UFC and winning with a knockout. He stuck to that. He stuck to his game plan. He stuck to his style and didn't try to change before, like what he's normally used to and what he normally does for this particular match. So a very South African way of fighting, you would say, that his approach, being confident, being aggressive, being smart in the way he obviously attacked, and stuck to his game plan and trusted his team's mindset. You'll see a lot of the time UFC people change what they know to fit a certain opposition or a certain person. So the fact that because he's going to the UFC now, it's a different standard to like the EFC, and you obviously almost think that you have to change things to do well there. No, you just need to do what you can do best, and I think that's what South Africa need to do with regards to cricket, for example. Just stick to what they know best, man. And I think if they pick the right guys at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And Paul, you're coming on now, onto the stream now, quite late. But yeah, we're just talking about the Island series in general. I know we spoke about it in the preview, but we just want to know like what we actually want to get out of this, because ultimately the first game's rained out. Now we're already starting off on the foot like this, like what are we, after the last two games, what do we really want to see? For me, it was about guys getting opportunities and seeing guys get their form back. Guys like Andile, for example, I would like to see him get his form back. That's a very important one, I think.
He bowled well today, so I was really happy with that. But like for me, it's all about the batting. It's getting a blueprint to figure out how you can consistently score 300 plus in this format of the game. I know the scores over the past couple of months, 6 months, have dropped down in ODI cricket. 250 is a lot more competitive now, but going forward, I don't think it's going to last. And you need to figure out a blueprint to give yourself that foundation and use that to explode in the back end in the final 15 overs when that power play starts coming back in. And I think Ireland kind of set themselves up for that with the wickets in hand. They batted kind of slowly for me today, but I do think that that's what you kind of need to do from the batting perspective. I think from a bowling perspective, these guys are doing really well. I'd like them to keep the fielding standards high. Yes, obviously, I'm sure everyone's spoken about giving other guys an opportunity, but for me, how do you build an innings of 300 consistently? What's the game plan? Do you want to go aggressive, or do you want to go a little bit cautious up front and get to over 30 or about 170, 180 and give yourselves enough chance, or 150 after 30 and then try and double your score from there? Or do you want to just go hell for leather and try to dominate the first few power plays and then get yourself over the line towards the back end? So for me, I'd like to see what the plan is from an ODI World Cup perspective, because you're going to have to start building it in now going forward. I was really happy with Aiden and Yanaman. We just missed out on them on opening the batting, because that would have been something really nice to see. But for me, that's it. You just need to figure out what plan. What's the plan? What's the tactic going to the World Cup? And this is the start, and you should try and be consistent and continue it going to the World Cup.
One thing that I remember now, I don't know why I didn't speak about it earlier, but from that Faf interview with Pami, and Dan and Aditya, you both can speak about it if you want to add to this. But he spoke about Faf, that they're in conversations with Faf coming back. He said that he's not sure about Morris. He said that he's not sure if Morris is available for South Africa. That was his words, actually, Boucher. So I was quite shocked that they put it in the players' hands, and shouldn't they be the ones that actually go out there and say, look, you're playing, if you want to, come back. But they've kind of given it to Chris Morris to decide. Sounds like they're trying to say that he hasn't made himself available. That's how it's sounding from Boucher and from Graham, from what you've heard from their side. And every single time I'm waiting for the name Tahir to pop up, and it doesn't. It's quite shocking to me that his name doesn't pop up in the conversation when they speak about it. So yeah, Aditya, Dan, do you want to add to that? Because I mean, Faf du Plessis is something that's going to be a massive one. Something something that's really going to either boost South Africa or could go completely a different way?
I would say the Faf situation, this kind of comes down to the squad selection, and I think that was something that Paul was kind of making the point, and I'd like to carry on. I'd like to see us identify roles better and know who does what in the team. We've gone past the days of you're just a batsman. Like, you have anchor batsmen, you have aggressive batsmen, you have I can't remember the English guy yesterday, but like he came out of the fence swinging, and like every delivery he swung as if his life depended on it.
Salt.
Yeah, salt. There we go. Because all the salt punches. But that's his natural game plan. There's what the English wanted, maybe not, but ultimately you take the player, you identify their role, and you put them in a situation where they can take that role. I think we had this conversation a lot, and I also heard it on SA Guerrilla Cricket a lot with the Pro 20 side. Like, do you take an anchor batsman in the Pro 20 side knowing that you only have so many deliveries to score and you really have to maximize your score? You don't have someone who can sit for 30 balls and just take his time and get his eye in, unless you know he's going to score sixes for the rest of the game. And I think that's kind of the to bring this back to the Faf situation. With Faf, you have an aggressive batsman and you have a guy that gets his eye in quickly and scores big. But you also have to make peace with the fact that means if Faf comes in, there's only 11 spots, so someone has to go. And who do you sacrifice for Faf? And this. You can have a good team. You can have a good team with or without Faf, but again, I would say you kind of Faf has the international quality and is playing Pro 20 cricket at a high level. And Tahir is another name that I don't know why he's not in the setup. I don't know why he's not being talked about. Like, he's playing IPL, he's playing PSL, he's competing at a high level. He's still dominant. Well, he's not playing in the IPL, I think, but he is in the PSL. He's still taking wickets. He's still dominating. He's still running to the boundary every time he gets a wicket. Like, the man is there, the passion is there. Like, use that. Like, have him train with Shamsi. Like, have him teach Shamsi the tips and the tricks.
Yeah, Naditya, I would like you. We know that you're a massive fan of Faf, and you obviously want Faf to open the batting in T20 cricket.
Yeah. Yes. Look, we talk about anchors and accumulators versus aggressive batsmen. One thing that we need to recognize is that there has to be someone to score runs. We can talk about strike rates all we want, but in those 20 overs, you need to score 180, 190. And Faf is that guy whose game in the T20 format has evolved over time. And we've always known that he's been an outstanding limited overs cricketer. If you're talking about ODI cricket, only 4 people, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and Ross Taylor, scored 3 people scored more than him over the last 4 years. He's been averaging 60. And in T20 cricket, he's been phenomenal for the Chennai Super Kings at the top of the order in the IPL. And there's no reason that he can't play that same role for South Africa if he's given that same freedom. He is outstanding at the power play. He knows he's got a multi-dimensional game. We talk about rotation of strike, playing with soft hands, running hard between the wickets, and hitting the big shots. Faf du Plessis is that all-round package. He gives you that. And if you have any doubt, look at his season with the Chennai Super Kings last year in the UAE, where the World Cup is going to be played this year, and look at his season with Chennai Super Kings this year as well. He's been outstanding. So Faf du Plessis has to be there in the team, and I do believe, with respect, Harshit, I think Faf, Temba, and Rassi can play in the same team. They just need to be batting in the right positions. And to me, the real concern for South Africa is batting towards the back end, where they need players who can strike at 190 or 200 and finish games off in those last 5 overs. I think that to me is where the real concern for South Africa is. In fact, I think we've talked about this before. South Africa have an excessive supply of top order batsmen, but they don't have enough of players who can succeed at 5, 6, and 7.
All right, I think what I'm about to say next, I think Aditya can relate to this. But if we look at the IPL, the quality of cricket played over there, it's slightly better than that of T20 internationals, because you don't normally see very strong bowling attacks at international T20 level. But at the same time, a lot of players that have actually done well in the IPL go on to do well at the international stage. So with that being said, since Faf du Plessis has been opening very often for the Chennai Super Kings, I don't understand why the Proteas haven't given him a chance to open at international level. And I think it's high time that should happen. I think Faf du Plessis, Quinton de Kock, Temba Bavuma, and Rassie van der Dussen would make a fantastic top 4.
It's interesting you say that about, because Poucher actually disagrees with you on that one. He says that international cricket is much higher level than IPL, which is interesting.
Well, if we look at the Mumbai Indians, that side is super stacked. Like, they have Rohit Sharma and Quinton de Kock opening, and they have Jasprit Bumrah and Trent Boult as their 2 frontline pacers. These are 2 of the best white ball openers in the world and 2 of the best white ball pace bowlers in the world. And I think any T20 team would crave to have that kind of quality in their side.
I think the concern probably comes in with the bowling, because a lot of the time when the Indian IPL teams pick their international own, their local players, it's a lot of the time it's their bowlers that are the guys that come in. You know, those on Fantasy League, it's those free agents that you get, those free swaps.
Look, I'm not going to talk about the quality of the IPL. My thing is, Faf needs to be in the side. It is worrying that Tahir's not there, is not being spoken about. But you need to look at it from different ways, right? There are people who, when you ask a question, they were like, yeah, no, I'll be there. And you understand that their yes is their yes, right? The question with Faf is around what's the best use of his time right now from a monetary perspective, rather than actually playing for the Proteas, because right now he's out of contract with the Proteas, so he's not getting the 1 million rand salary that he would be getting annually that he's been getting over the past year. It's actually close to about 2-3 million because he played all 3 formats. He's no longer getting that, so he needs to find a way to supplement that income. Obviously, the IPL's there, and that's helpful. But he can't be going on tour like now to the West Indies and Ireland when he's foregoing a PSL money, which was at the start of that West Indies tour, and he's also could possibly be foregoing the Caribbean Premier League money, which could be happening now after the Pakistan tour, which is in a couple of weeks' time. So you just got to understand that the discussions with Faf and CSA is around what's the best use, what's the best way for him to come in, because match checks aren't enough. They're not enough. And I think that's the one thing people need to understand. So that's the one thing. It's not that Faf's greedy, it's just that they're trying to iron out those and trying to give Faf the best option to be available for the Proteas. And Faf's largely into the side. Chris Morris, on the other hand, also has that question because he's been in and out of the side over the past 5 years. He hasn't had a straight run in the side. So what's the point of a guy wanting to come in for national pride when the same national team doesn't pick him? They bring him in and out whenever they feel like it, and he doesn't have a clear role. He doesn't have a clear idea of what they want to do with him. And that falls on to Mark Boucher and Graham Smith for not necessarily having a clear plan and saying last year when Mark became, or 2019 when Mark became permanent, or early 2020, to say, Chris, you're going to be important. When Chris went for 30-something million rand in the IPL auction, those discussions should have happened then to be like, Chris, what's going to happen? You know, we can give you as much support as we can, but this is what it is. If guys like Chris Morris, Tahir, and Faf are important, you're going to move heaven and earth like you did with AB de Villiers to try and get them in the side. if they're not winning that battle with Chris, there's no cricket going on when the World Cup is happening. Chris Morris has nothing better to do than be with the Proteas. So he can be there. I think these guys are just reluctant to bring him in. And I think it's just a question of their attitudes. I think there's some bridges that were burnt. Some guys are not happy. Some words were said. Possibly, I don't know. I'm just assuming. And possibly that's the reason why Chris Morris isn't in the equation. But from a Faf du Plessis perspective, it should be Quinton, Faf opening, Tembo 3, Rassie at 4. And at 5, you need to decide what you're going to do with David Miller and get somebody else in, but you're going to continue with David Miller. And sadly, Aiden Markham's your first sub in should there be an injury in the squad. He's going to get a medal if South Africa win the World Cup because he'd be in the 15, and he's not going to be in the 7 traveling non-reserve players. But for me, that's how you should go into this World Cup. Faf is transcendent. One of the better players we've had over the past 4 years. He needs to face the most balls. Your best players should face the most balls. So what South Africa struggled with AB de Villiers. AB de Villiers batted too low for the Proteas in limited overs cricket. You need to give him as many balls as possible. Rassie said it in his press conference. You get 20 to 30 balls in a T20. You need to give your best guys more than that. Because if you give 560, if you give Quinton 60 balls, that sets you up for 100 or for a Big Daddy 100 if you can, if the conditions are right, or just for a minimum 100. And that's what South Africa need to do. And in the UAE, might as well go with Faf opening.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on Morris. I think if we look at a similar situation that happened in rugby when Frans Steyn kind of after 2007 said, you know what, I'm a little bit tired of Test rugby. I want to focus on the provincial game. Peter de Villiers flew to France and spoke with him and said, this is how we'll use you. You're not just going to be another face on the field. You're going to be an integral part of my team. And I worry with Boucher and with Graham that they're kind of saying, well, we said be on our team and you said no, so, have a good day. You can't. Like, Morris should be integral to the team. The fact that the IPL values him so highly shows you that we should move heaven and earth for these players. And if he's only available for IPL, then he's for Pro 20, then he's only available for Pro 20. That shouldn't be a detrimental factor. That shouldn't be a reason to keep someone out of the squad anymore. I think we're moving into the realm, and we're seeing this with India and England and Australia, and the West Indies for that matter, that you have guys that come in on the ODIs. You have guys that come in on the Pro 20. You have guys that come in on the tests. They don't have to play all 3 formats to still succeed. Jimmy Anderson is probably one of the greatest strike bowlers of all time, if not the greatest based on his stats as a pace bowler. So, that aside, but he's still performing at a high level. Why? Because he plays his tests, and that's what's important to him. Imran Tahir is still performing at a high level. He plays Pro 20 because that's what's important to him. Listen to the players, identify their roles, and execute on that. But don't say, well, we offered him a chance and he said no, because that doesn't really mean anything. You can't talk about the negotiations. I get that, but I also know likely that they didn't go to Chris Morris and said, you're going to bat in this position. We're going to use you here. You're going to be a switch hitter. You're going to be the pinch hitter. They probably just said, you want to be in the side. We'll use you if, someone has a cold. Do you want to? Do you not want to? What do you feel like? What do you feel like doing? And, as a professional athlete, I think this is the crux of the point. National duty doesn't make the same money that professional duty does. That's why, Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi don't only play international football. They play club football. And, the honor of presenting your nation, that little kick of nationalism, that's kind of the reason why you take time off of a busy schedule, or you take your break and you go and you perform for your country. And cricket is going the same way. Rugby has gone the same way. Any team sport is ultimately going to lean itself towards this professional model. And fighting that is just not going to help. That's why the USA basketball team lost against Nigeria yesterday, because they kept fighting and trying to develop this amateur league and bring in these professional players right at the death who can put on big points, but you don't have team synergy. You're not building guys and identifying basics. You're just plopping
Don't
someone
get me
in
started
and
about
saying
that.
excel. Oh, what was that?
No, what I meant was, don't get me started about that. I understand completely. That Team USA game was just wild, but it's just a lack of synergy. You can't put all stars together and think you're gonna win a game. But
Exactly.
That's this is not a basketball show. It's a cricket show.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
at least
was-
do what the West Indies do. Like, if you're going to put your all stars together, let them play a couple of series together.
Yes, and I think that's what Bouch and the guys were struggling with Chris Morris and Faf and AB, was you kind of needed these guys to come in from this West Indies series to kind of build that synergy, and also to give Temba the ability to know what he's working with. So that's the one thing you're gonna have to you're gonna have to let go. And I think that's where that was where the sticking point was with Chris, was they needed Chris on these tours. They really did.
Yeah.
And he's not available. And I don't know why, but to a certain extent, he's been hurt before. And as a human being, you want assurances. And if you can't give him those assurances, he's not going to turn out for you. And I think they just gave up and were like, if this guy doesn't want to play, it's okay. And I think we need to look, as Dan says, it's player empowerment. Whatever the players want, do. If you want to win things, whatever the players want, do. The West Indies tried this; it didn't work. For years and years and years, West Indies cricket was in a hole because guys wanted to play overseas, and everyone was like, "No, but we'll pick guys domestically." And if you look at that domestic circuit in the West Indies, it's been bad for years. And only now are they, or in 2016, that they realized, actually, we just need these guys for World Cups. Quite frankly, who cares about Super League? Who cares about T20s in between World Cups? Every 4 years, guys need to arrive, earn as much money as you can within the 4 years, but know that 4 months before the World Cup, you're in South African t-shirts.
So, a bit of Willis is that X you can't get rid of, and Morris is that that future wife that you need to give us ability and show her that you can put a roof over her head before she says yes. Abba, you want to add to that? You said something.
I think Mpo couldn't have said it better himself about Morris. I think, his death over strike rate is like 180 plus. I need to double check. I don't know it off the top of my head. And he can bowl pretty quick and accurately. So there's no reason not to pursue his inclusion, even though there's question marks over his availability. But then again, just like what Mpo said, when the World Cup's going on, what else? What other cricket's happening? What other high level cricket's happening? Nothing much really. So I think the management has to go after Morris. You can call it desperation. You can call it whatever the heck you want. But ideally, you want to have all your best players when it's time for the World Cup. You want to be 100% ready, hopefully injury free. But you want to have all your best players in the team. And regarding Aiden Markram, he might be hard done by because I mentioned before it's the ideal top 4 according to our consensus is Faf, Quinton, Temba, and Rassi. As great as Markram has been, it's professional sport, and tough decisions are bound to be made at some point, and someone's bound to get unlucky. But take nothing away from Markram. I think he's going to be an all format great for South Africa.
Okay, guys, let's wrap this up. Teacher, give me your final few words. What your thoughts are before we wrap this up, and then I just want to ask Paul one more question before I say bye to the fans.
Right. So I guess to get back to the topic that we had at hand, which was about the Ireland series and what to expect, I just want to reiterate that this is the opportunity for South Africa to strengthen its bench, to produce second and third 11s that are capable of playing and winning in international cricket, because that's where international cricket is going. India proved that by defeating Australia with like second or third 11, and England has had to produce a second and third 11 overnight to play Pakistan, and they've delivered a proper hammering in the two games that they've played. So South Africa needs to go in that direction to ensure that its domestic players coming through the system into international cricket are more than capable of winning when they're given the opportunity. So that's what I'd like to see from the South African team in this series against Ireland. And I was very happy to see the team that was selected, minus a couple, but that I suppose can be attributed to Andrik's injury and the fact that you don't want to play an entirely inexperienced team. But in saying that, bench strength, very important, and I hope South Africa keep working towards it.
Sampo, is it going home? Is it going to Rome?
Rome, baby, come on!
I want
It has
England to
to be
win.
Rome.
I also like it has to be Rome. Like,
I only support teams that have United players in. If they don't have United players in, then I don't support them.
Look, the only reason why I'd be happy it was coming home is for Bukayo Saka, but he's not starting. So quite frankly, I do not care. It must go to Rome. I do not like the colonizers coming in and winning things. The fact that they hadn't won anything in 55 years was because they were being punished. Karma is a bitch. It's going to happen tonight. They're going to be crying. They better cry.
So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thank you to everybody. Bye. Thanks a lot to Dan. Thanks a lot to Aditya and Paul, everybody for coming on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully we'll see some cricket soon. Hopefully it's not another rained out game, but you'll see us again tomorrow with the Daily Show, and keep an eye out for this week for our magazine as well. We'll be bringing you guys the magazine as well very soon. I'm trying to push for Monday. But if I can't, then it probably will be on Tuesday. But ultimately, it will be this week. So just keep an eye out and subscribe to that, please. Click the notification bell to all of those things. And we'll see you again tomorrow with another Daily Show. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the game and enjoy the rest of your week. Cheers.